So reports have been released saying that Chris Eubank Jr. will make a comeback against Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga's tweeted it on X, saying that he'd love to fight Eubank Jr. in London. And there's been reports from both camps saying there's mutual interest in making this fight happen. The reports that I've read have said that this fight will likely be a catchweight at 164, where, of course, initially they likely would have wanted to have it at 168, but Eubank Jr. saying he's not willing to fight above 164. Sorry, it may have been that Chris Eubank Jr. didn't want to fight above 160 and Berlanga is in 168. So Berlanga's camp are getting back to him saying the lowest Berlanga can fight at is 164. That very well may be the case. But when I saw this, I just had to let out a sigh. I just had to let out a long, disappointed sigh, because there's no reason for this fight to happen, really. And there's no reason for this fight to happen at catchweight as well, right? Edgar Berlanga is not a great boxer. He's got a good record because he knocked out a lot of bums early on in his career. And he done a lot of first-round knockouts, which, again, even at super middleweight, that's very rare. At any level in heavyweight boxing, getting that many first-round knockouts is rare. So that's going to get you, some initial interest. When you've got a record like that. And that's exactly what happened to me. I see a guy with a record like that, and he was undefeated at the time at super middleweight. I'm like, damn, maybe this dude can cause some problems. And then he faces a live one in Canelo, and he's nowhere near the level. And then he faces Hamza Sheeraz and he gets blown apart. And then after that, everyone's like, hey, this guy's a hype job. And granted, you're a guy with all these first round knockouts. You should at least be able to hold your own at world level. Not get shut out by Canelo over 12 rounds and then get destroyed by Hamza Sheeraz. Get your knocked out, like, we're going out sad. Like, beat the brakes off you, bro. Like, didn't beat the brakes off you because Berlanga went down, went back up. No, it was like, bro, just his hands were just too fast and he's too powerful, and Berlanga had nothing for him, bro. That's what Berlanga's known for. He's not anything at world level, in my opinion. He's a hype job. I mean, he's shown that against Canelo and Sheeraz. Again, these aren't bad guys to lose to, but at least, especially people are saying, even then, Canelo was past his prime. Because if you're one of these people that says Canelo was past his prime, even against Crawford, you're one of these people that are saying, yeah, he's past his prime against Crawford, but he's been past his prime for a few years, A lot of people are saying, well, after he beat Kovalev, that was like his last great performance. When was that, 2019? So a lot of people are saying, Canelo's been finished for a while. Arguably. Whatever people want to say, right? Or after he lost to Bivol, he wasn't that good. When he came back down to super middleweight, he was done after that. Whatever. If you want to say that, you can say that. But I think we can all agree, that's not a Canelo that fought Triple G. He's not that good. He's maybe regressed a little bit, but I don't think he's truly, completely past his prime. He's completely out of his prime. Sorry, he's past his prime a bit, granted. I can admit that, but completely out of his prime, I wouldn't say that, even against Edgar Berlanga. And he shut him out. Over 12 rounds, completely shut him out. And it was, a performance we got exposed, right? At least show something. Do you know what I'm saying? And he really didn't show much at all when he got walked through by Canelo and then walked through by Hamza Sheeraz. And he's not fought since. And if you're going outside against those two guys, even like I'm saying, they're not bad guys to lose to. Canelo's not a scrub. Sheeraz is not a scrub. Even though Sheeraz wasn't even a world champion, and as isn't a world champion even to date, his only world title fight was a draw against Carlos Adames, who again, no scrub, a better boxer than Edgar Berlanga, that's for sure. And evidently showed that using boxing math. When he fought Edgar Berlanga, he stopped him quite easily as well. And then you've got Chris Eubank Jr., who's coming off easily the worst performance of his career against Conor Benn in the rematch. Obviously, he beat Conor Benn in the first fight. It was close. It was competitive. And then in the rematch was completely... Now, he's a guy who you can say, yeah, he completely passed his prime now. That completely cooked. Even in his prime, he wouldn't have been able to mix it with the true world level middleweights, in my opinion. And he didn't. We saw him at middleweight and super middleweight that when he occasionally moved up, he couldn't do it. Lost to George Groves. Lost to Billy Joe Saunders at British level. Billy Joe Saunders would go on to world level. Lost to George Groves, lost to Liam Smith. Liam Smith's a 154-pound world champion. He was good, but he was never the guy at 154. Never the guy at 154. You know, at that time when he was at 154, the guys would have been Charlo, Tim Zhu, those type of guys. Those were the elite at 154. Liam Smith was a good guy, but he was never the top guy at 154. And then he knocks Eubank Jr. out, stops him. Eubank Jr. gets his lick back, but those are still miles on the clock. Again, even that first Conor Benn fight, he won it, it's still miles on the clock. And then rematched him again. Even more miles on the clock. You know, even more miles on the clock. So, it's a battle of two done-out guys, if we're being honest. Both guys are cooked. Would be a weird fight to take place. It really doesn't do much for either guy, if we're being honest. Because, I mean, okay, for Edgar Berlanga, I guess, it does a lot for his profile. But let's say Edgar Berlanga beats an old Chris Eubank Jr. That doesn't improve your rankings with the governing bodies. Chris Eubank Jr. is not ranked at 168. Doesn't bring you closer to a world title fight. Granted, I know maybe I'm looking at it on paper. In reality, Edgar Berlanga beating Chris Eubank Jr. does a lot for his personal profile. So that in and of itself does make him closer to a world championship. I get that. I appreciate that. But yeah, other than that, it's weird. Because again, Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't need this fight. If he's saying he can't fight at 168, then him beating Berlanga, again, does nothing for him. Doesn't improve his ranking in any of the governing bodies. It would be a decent payday. I mean, for both guys, it would be a decent payday. You know? And Chris Eubank Jr. might be looking at it as low risk, but I don't see how Chris Eubank Jr. could be looking at it as low risk. You know, a guy who's got like, 16, 17 first round knockouts, and you just got dropped by Conor Benn, and this guy's bigger than you. You're saying this is a low risk fight. There are actual low risk fights out there that you could take. Berlanga's not one of them, even though Berlanga's not that good. It's still a somewhat risky fight for Eubank Jr. because guess what? Eubank Jr. is not that good, and he's hittable. Granted, Edgar Berlanga, I don't think Berlanga's quite got the speed of a Conor Benn at all. And they do say speed kills, and speed is part of the reason why Ben was able to land on Eubank Jr., of course. Speed lands, power is what puts you out, or puts you down, rather. But yeah, man, it was interesting news to see, because both guys are cooked. And neither guy really gets much out of this fight, so I was a bit confused when I saw it, a bit surprised, but we'll see if this fight happens, and if it does, what weight it happens at. Likely it'll be above 160, because Berlanga's no small dude. I don't see him, and Berlanga's not a small dude at all. Berlanga is known for huge rehydrations. And Berlanga, even if he weighs in at 168, come fight night, this dude's built like me. He might weigh in 180, 190. I've seen him outside of camp weigh in like 195. You know, outside of camp, I've seen him weigh like 195, right? And he can punch. That's pretty much all he can do. He's a big body and he can punch. You know, that's enough to cause Eubank Jr. problems at this point of his career. You know, especially Eubank Jr., he's a pressure fighter. Even though he's not often the bigger guy in these fights, even at middleweight, he wasn't a big middleweight in my opinion. Wasn't a middleweight that was using his size to win fights, especially. But a prime Eubank Jr. does rely off throwing combinations and pressure. He's not a good counter puncher. Or maybe not good, he's not good enough. But again, Berlanga's not that good. It's not like you need to be an amazing boxer to beat Berlanga. So, as you can see, it's a fight that's clearly got me split down the middle a bit. But let me know what you guys think of this fight, if it takes place, what weight do you think it happens at, and who do you think would win out of Chris Eubank Jr. and Edgar Berlanga if that fight was to get made. Let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.